Hi, this is Daniel, and I'm Tiffany with Stunning Stays, and today we are going to talk about one of the most Google searched questions about short-term rentals. Can short-term rentals be banned? Everybody's asking this question because in different states, things are happening, like New York, they shut down certain things. So they're asking this question. Daniel, can short-term rentals be banned in Arizona?
Yes, things can be subject to change. They definitely can be, but it all boils down to your location and which city you're in. And it also comes down to whether you have an HOA. And the HOA laws can definitely change as well.
100%. So there is no federal law against short-term rentals. And there's no wide city law against short-term rentals. But like you said, in different areas, you have to know what area you're going into. Like Scottsdale, there is an area that you can have no less than 9 months on a lease. In Sedona, there are areas that you can have no less than a 1-year lease. HOAs can govern whether you can have short-term, long-term, and you need to understand the CC&Rs very well to make sure that you know if you're going to be banned there or not. And in HOAs, if they say anything about the length of stay, they can change that at any given time. Meaning, if it says, hey, right now, a lease is 9 months or something, they can change that going around. I was listening to a lawyer that was talking about this because in Arizona, it's a big issue that people are changing and the laws are changing so rapidly that even we had an owner come on going, oh, I can have a short-term rental on this property. And what did we find out? Because we did our own research.
We found out that was not the case.
It wasn't the case. And so we couldn't bring on that owner as a short-term rental because we won't go against the laws and ordinances of the cities or the HOAs. And so we had to say, I'm sorry, we can't bring this one on. Because it's important that, like for Scottsdale and Mesa and Gilbert, there's a lot of, you have to have a permit in a lot of areas to make sure you're staying in compliance.
The permit is subject for all those that are less than 30 days. If you do actually midterm where it's 30 days or longer, you don't even need the permit. I've also heard, though, there's a little bit of confusion out there in the marketplace because I've also heard an attorney, and that I will say this is an attorney that focused on HOAs. But at the time, and this was probably 2 years ago when he was speaking to the matter.
Mm-hmm. This is the lawyer I'm talking about.
Okay, but he said at the time, though, if you buy a rental property with the intention of doing short-term, then the HOA can't go back and then abolish it. If the intention of the purchase when you bought it was short-term rental, they're not able to go back and change the HOA. So it sounds like that may not be the case anymore.
It is the case, but it's not the case. Meaning what you have to look at is what the CC&Rs say. Does it say anything about rentals in your CC&Rs? Because this is a whole new sector of short-term rentals. Short-term rentals didn't really exist 20 years ago when a bunch of these CC&Rs were started. So what you have to look at, does it say anything about renting the house out? Does it say anything about the length of renting the house out? And again, I'm not a lawyer, but you want to make sure you understand the legalities on the back end of that. And the lawyer did say, you want to look at what was the purpose you bought it, but then make sure you know what the CC&Rs say. Because if it does say anything about the length, then they can change that. Because most of the CC&Rs do state that it can change if they get a number of people to agree upon it within the CC&Rs.
The majority has to vote against it.
Yeah,
so it can change. So say you bought it for doing short-term rentals, so less than 30 days, and you bought it today, you're saying that in 6 months or 12 months, if they have a majority vote, then they can change the length of stay, the minimum requirement?
Yes.
Okay.
So now this is what the lawyer stated. Again, please talk to your lawyer about this. But the podcast that I was listening to about this specifically stated, make sure you understand your CC&Rs, because if it does have the wording in there that says, hey, things can change if they get a majority vote, then guess what? It can change. Also, if it states anything about the length of rental, then that can change because they've already been stipulating that the rentals can only be this. And so in your CC&Rs, if it says something about rental, you need to make sure you understand that that can probably change.
So bottom line is, before you buy a property, double check to see if there's any restrictions on the length of stay. And if you're intending to do it less than 30 days and do a short term, then you need to make sure that it's not prohibited in the CCNRs, and then double check any city guidelines where you're located then.
100%. And the reason why people are so scared about short-term rentals, like communities and things like this, you got to understand, if short-term rentals are not managed well, you get parties, you get damage. And one of the other biggest concerns is that the prices of homes go up because of short-term rentals. And not only that, it gives less homes to the people here to actually buy them, and the affordability is out the window because short-term rentals, what happens? The rental that comes in to a short-term rental is a lot more than a long-term rental. And so it ups the price of that home. And so what people are saying is it takes the normal individual out of buying a home, which is not the case. But there are certain things that people can do to make sure that if you're in an HOA, I highly recommend make sure you go to the HOA meetings. Make sure they understand that you want to be a part of the community and help out. Make sure that the neighborhood stays good. The reason why HOAs are coming against it are the reasons why I stipulated. It's because that they're worried about the noise complaints, the damage, the cars, all those things. And if they understand that you're really on their side and you want to be a benefit to the neighborhood, a lot of times they won't come up against you. It's when they feel like there's a short-term rental that's not there for their benefit.
Great points. You're spot on.
So on short-term rentals, there's not a federal law, but I do highly recommend that people really look at what's going on in the market because things are changing every week. So like when you have a permit in Mesa right now, I had an owner call me, I had a referral, and we were talking about it. What has to happen if you have to get that permit? What has to happen when you get that permit to notify the people around?
They require each homeowner to give notice to each adjacent neighbor on the same side of the street, as well as the house directly across and the two houses adjacent to the house across. So essentially 5 houses you have to give notice to that it's being operated as a short-term rental. And I believe that maybe the emergency contact as well to those neighbors.
So it's important that you do those things. Stick with regulations. Don't try to bypass them. So if you need a permit, get the permit, then notify the neighbors. Now, something that people need to understand is the owner that I was talking to, they're like, well, how do I do that? Okay, so in Arizona, the law stipulates, now again, talk to your lawyer, but our lawyer has stipulated that as long as it's certified, which is really good, is certified, you can actually do it from your couch. It's letterstream.com, and you can certify a letter from there specifically, and they will certify it to you, to the neighbor that you need to get it to. So you can certify it, you can hand deliver it, but you can't just email it because it's not deemed a legal notice unless they respond to that specific email. So make sure you certify it and make sure you get that documentation. So if the city does come back, that you can prove that you certified it. That is the best way to get around it, to make sure that you do exactly what the city is asking. So get the permit, make sure they know you're a short-term rental, and then make sure you let the neighbors beside you know. That's important. And the question was, can short-term rentals be banned? It is a very complex question. They can in certain areas, but there's no federal law against it.